right. Hello, and welcome to episode 26 of Cheat Code Radio. It's another episode. It's another Monday night. It's a long weekend for me here, so I'm, nice, relaxed, primed, and dreading going back to work tomorrow. So it's another great day. Joining me, as always, is the relaxed, the vibe, the intrepid, Mr. Ivan Seiler.
Hey everybody, Anchorman here. Glad to be back after your eventful moving situation. So, at least, hey, we're back, ready to be back in the saddle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we will now have consistency now that I'm not moving, disassembling, and not having internet. And we good. We out here. And what time to be out here? There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff to talk about this week too. So,
Yep.
we'll just kind of roll right into that. So, what do you got? We got our 5 topics each that we normally do. Let's roll right into it. What do you got? What are you cooking for number one?
So for me, the first thing I want to talk about is Activision is suing a TikToker for fair use. So, first off, why that's funny. Nick and I have been on YouTube for a good chunk of time. We've all had our own projects and stuff. So one of the things you always hear about is fair use. It's about mainly using copyrighted material in a shortened segment. General rule of thumb is if it's 25 seconds or less, it's normally accepted as fair use, at least on YouTube. That can range depending on the type of work it is. It's just kind of all over the place. So let me pull this up here, because this was last year, but not last year, last week. I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was a very interesting case. Let's see. There we go. So what happened is Activision is suing a creator called Anthony Fantano for him suing them over them using a piece of his audio. So this is a stupid TikTok thing. Like, you hear where people say, like, they do the whole TikTok thing, like, that's enough slices.
Yes. Yeah.
This is the guy who did that particular audio bit. Apparently, Activision had used, we were starting making TikToks for Call of Duty, and they had used a clip of his audio.
Right.
For that particular meme. And the creator, Anthony Fantano, actually sent a bill to Activision for using his voice and not giving him credit or paying him for it.
Ballsy.
And so Activision is actually suing him, essentially citing fair use, that they're allowed to use his little clip of his voice and not have to pay him anything.
Interesting.
And I'm just kind of like, that's such a wild turn of events. And I thought that was just a really funny thing, because really, we've been talking about this in terms of corporations. Like, oh yeah, if we want to have this protection for ourselves, that we want to, like, oh yeah, we want to be able to, like, use what copyrighted material in a fair way or a transformative manner. And Activision is, if they win this case, that would actually establish precedent for fair use. So I'm kind of like, wow, that'd be really wild that, like, companies are even now doing this as well. I don't know. I don't know if you have any take on this. I just thought it was a fun little blip, and I want to make sure it got included.
It couldn't happen to a better guy, honestly. I find him incredibly annoying. But with that being said, it is funny to watch people who constantly will use and upload TikToks and YouTube shorts using other people's audio, then go, well, now that my audio's trending, where's my money? It is kind of funny to see that kind of turn around and be used against people. There's a conversation to be had of what you own and what you don't own on the internet, and yada, yada, yada. A lot of people don't read the terms of conduct they sign up for on websites, and, wherever the case may be, it is a twisted turn of event where I'm cheering for Activision. But yeah, fair use is fair use. Technically, like we had that conversation all the time back in 2016, 2017 when it used to be it wasn't content. It was like dismantle content, and you have people making
Yeah.
videos dismantling other people's arguments. Those videos used to be like 45 minutes long of chopping up somebody else's video and talking about it. And there was a huge fair use discussion back then about it. It's interesting to see a different generation of creators now having that conversation yet again.
Yep. That's right. I remember that was like a big discussion. You were also talking about that. It wasn't just in the gaming space, but it was also in terms of like, uh, you doing a full length critique of a movie or a TV show, and you literally just include the entire episode, or like playing the episode in the background and you just kind of like talking over it, like a Mystery Science Theater kind of deal, or
Mm-hmm.
doing something where it's like you're trying out the entire thing, and just terms of film critique. And like I think ultimately people moved away from that anyway, and they just kind of like hit the major bits. But it's been a weird situation to watch for sure. So yeah.
Yeah,
All
it'll
right,
be
what's your top? What's your number five, big dog?
number 5 for me is Street Fighter 6 is getting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover content this week, including new outfits and emotes. I don't necessarily want to talk about Street Fighter 6, but I want to talk about how I'm actually getting exhausted with crossover content. Um, it became one of those things that was kind of cool. I think the first one that ever did like mainstream popular crossover content that I really loved was like, I want to say Mortal Kombat did that. But now it's just everything. Every game has crossover content. Like there's a sketch game, indie game where you like draw stuff and everything else. And Andreas Mahler from Pentiment is a crossover character in that game. So like when you're crossing over when you're crossing over Pentiment characters, I'm like, okay, do you think we're going a little crazy with this? And they kind of like rolls into my whole problem with Call of Duty too. It's like, oh, here's your Nicki Minaj and Snoop Dogg skins. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And 21, which is a trash rapper. Like we're just giving anyone skins at this point. Um, but I don't know. It's just I'm increasingly exhausted with crossover content because it's no longer, hey, this is kind of cool fan service. It's, hey, here's how we could get $20 out of you with doing close to minimal effort at this point. What about you?
Yeah.
Where are you on the crossover event? Because like I know you have had a lot of fun recently with like the Monkey Island crossover and Sea of Thieves, but I still think that kind of falls more into a like unique crossover versus, oh, here's some skins kind of deal.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I did play the first little bit of the Sea of Thieves Monkey Island crossover, so just brief segue on that. We do have gameplay at some point for that. I don't know if we have it today, but we have a lot of Diablo gameplay. But yeah, no, it's for Sea of Thieves specifically, like it. I think they do a really good job of paying homage to whatever the medium was, because like the first little bit with all the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff, that was great. Like it was 5 really good missions, and like pulling from different sources and such for that, and it felt really complete as a concept, and it was really good. I really enjoyed that. Now, at least when it comes to the Monkey Island one, it was adapting a point and click adventure, and it does a really good job with that too. And like it pulls like from the absurdist kind of stuff like magic root beer and just other really random stuff, and it's enjoyable. It's actually a lot of fun. I thought it was a really good time. I just like I said, it was an interesting attempt for them to do that. And like I'm fine with crossovers as long as it's not like distracting. So like what I mean by that is like I felt like remember when Killer Instinct was doing crossovers with all these Microsoft properties. I
Hmm.
had a problem with it at that point because it was like, I mean, fighting games kind of get a little more of a pass, I'd say. Um, but it was like, okay, well, what's the identity of this? Like, well, it's Master Chief and Arbiter. Not sorry, Master Chief. It's just Arbiter, Battle Toads, or whatever crossover thing it was. And like, I'm fine with like little bits and pieces like that, but if it becomes where it's just like the only major selling point is these crossover events, is it's just it's not for me. It's too much at that point. I don't really care anymore.
Hmm.
So, that's kind of my whole thing with it. Again, if you could pull it off correctly, I'm fine. Or even like when they do like these special events, if it makes sense why they did it, I'd be like, all right, I'm in. I'm good with that. But otherwise, I'm like, eh. Like what was it? Doing Street Fighter and not Dino Crisis, Exodus Primal. It
Hmm.
was like, why? Just because they're two new games that are coming out from Capcom, but they don't really fit together at all. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So if it makes sense, I'm in. But if it doesn't, it's dumb.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there, and it's like that's what I mean is like there's stuff where it's like, oh, there's skins that don't really make sense. Like Rainbow Six Siege has a bunch of Yakuza skins randomly. Like I like Yakuza and I like Rainbow Six. I okay, I guess. Um, it just sometimes it feels like a really important cash grab. Um, and not really well thought through. And then other times, like with Sea of Thieves, it's obviously better implemented and more respectful of the IP and everything involved. But we'll keep trucking along. What is your number 4 there, sir?
All right, my number 4 is so let's talk about these Square Enix Final Fantasy 16 expectations for a minute.
Okay.
Um, I've seen this happen today, and like you guys know me at this point, I will never ever stick up for Square Enix ever unless it's actually warranted. But I gotta defend them on this one. Traditionally, Square Enix has had the worst track record with expectations. Period. So they've not been able to correctly anticipate anything in terms of what it's going to be like success wise or like actually promoting something or doing anything like that. So I wouldn't put it above them, to be wrong. But we had a news article break today, and I saw a couple people on the Xbox side of things try to doom and gloom things for Square, and I wanted to point out and actually say they're wrong specifically. So one of the things that was coming out was that Square's really disappointed with the sales of Final Fantasy 16, and it's the PlayStation 5's install base's fault. And they were trying to push that narrative specifically. Um, and this morning it broke that they had a news article that actually came out, and they stated I want to pull up the exact wording on it because reading comprehension is a bitch apparently. So let's see, it was there we go. Square Final Fantasy 16 sales did not meet high expectations. So what they weren't saying was Final Fantasy 16 did not meet expectations. What they were saying was that on the high end of their expectations, Final Fantasy 16 did not hit the high end of it. So, for example, if we're talking about like if Undead Anchor Productions creates a game and we're expecting on the low end, like, hey, we think like at least 100,000 people would buy a game if we made one. Um, we expect at least that much. We on the high end, like if we get some good mobility, we might pick up 1 million people.
Hmm.
So if we sell 300,000 units, we did better than what we had, the low end expected. But we didn't hit the higher end of the expectations. Doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means we didn't hit the high end of expectations. So I thought that was a really dumb discussion point. But if I would never defend Square Enix unless I had to, but in this case, they're right. It's not. People are trying to doom and gloom it just so they have some negative PlayStation press, and this is just not it. Not it, Chief.
Yeah, and I implore people once again to always not only look where your number information is coming from, but how it's being presented. Because kind of the weird caveat with things like sales data, and especially when you start talking about expectations and numbers, because every company has different expectations. Like you said, for Undead Anchor Productions, if we want on the low end to expect about 100K, and then we want a million, we get like 500, 600K. Yeah, we exceeded our initial expectations, but didn't exceed our high end expectations. I think using something like Baldur's Gate right now would be a great example. Like they disclosed that on the technical back end they had planned for about 100,000 players concurrently on launch, and then over the weekend they scaled upwards of like 800,000. So I would say they exceeded their high end expectations
Hmm.
with their launch. Um, but with all that being said, is just look where you're getting your information from and why someone's trying to spin those numbers in a certain way. There are tons of great people that provide great raw data numbers, and then there's people that put spins on those data numbers. And like the interesting stuff about Square Enix specifically is there isn't doom and gloom stuff with Square Enix. A lot of their stuff is acknowledging stuff that you and me already know about. For example, their mobile and MMO numbers are down like 13, 14% right now. And the reason that is they haven't really released a lot of mobile stuff. And the MMO, which is Final Fantasy 14, is kind of in a lull right now because they did a massive expansion a while ago. And they kind of hit that lull point, right? Yeah, after you have a big expansion, you're just doing some updates and some small stuff. So you're not gaining a lot of players, not gaining a lot of spend on content. So you're kind of in, a content lull. But I would expect with Final Fantasy 14 coming to Xbox next year, as well as a massive new expansion coming, Square's probably predicting those MMO numbers are going to be really, really good next year. Um, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand with games industry numbers is it's a peak and valley situation. You're gonna have down times because you're not releasing a lot, and then when you release stuff, you have to see what those heights reach. And I think that's what a lot of people don't seem to understand. And I think Square Enix is becoming increasingly aware that Final Fantasy is the only super, super successful thing they have. And they're trying to figure out ways to not only make Final Fantasy more successful, but also look at the grander scheme of things of how can we make our overall games more successful. And I think that partnership with Xbox for Final Fantasy 14 might be the tip of the iceberg of more of their games coming to Xbox. Maybe. That might be part of their strategy. I definitely think I will see more PC expansion for them because they've had some pretty good results in the PC portion. But overall, yes, for a lot of Square Enix's numbers, they were down. And yes, their stock dropped significantly because they don't necessarily have a hard hitter for the next financial role. They have the Final Fantasy VII remake, but there's nothing going on with the MMO. They've got some smaller games. So what their stock investors are doing is dropping because this year looks not necessarily dry, but not a year where they're going to be rolling in money. Um, and that's just investors playing tight, tight with their money and everything else. So it's kind of to be expected. I don't really think there's anything drastic going on at Square Enix where they're like in trouble at this point in time. They're definitely not Capcom in 2015. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I said we'll see how this goes, and I think overall Square's expectations have also just changed over time because keep in mind also during the 360 generation there were like periods of just explosive growth where people were like, holy shit, this game is taking off out of nowhere. We weren't expecting this. And I think Square was maybe like banking on that as like a thing long term. And that just didn't happen. So I would not stress that too much, I guess is the way I put it. But yeah. Anyway, what's your number 4, sir? What you got?
What do I have as my number? Oh yeah, number 4. Number 4 is Killer Instinct coming back on a random weekend night with a big patch, and Iron Galaxy is going to have a major update planned for release later this year that announced at Evo. This is the first update for Killer Instinct in. Hold on, I had it written down here. Since 2016. So basically, this is going to be the first major support the game's seen in a long time. It's going to include balance tweaks, improved matchmaking, and 4K support for Xbox Series X and S. Now, this is getting everyone riled up, saying Killer Instinct 2 is coming, and all this hubbub. But yeah, you have any excitement for Killer Instinct getting an update? I know neither one of us are really fighters by any chance, but I wasn't sure if this is like you would be inclined to Killer Instinct like I am to Mortal Kombat. I love Mortal Kombat even though I don't play fighting games.
Mortal Kombat of all the fighter games, but I don't care about Killer Instinct at all. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm sorry. That was floating around about a Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple things about it. So, did you hear about this at all specifically? Did you hear anything about it?
Yeah, I heard some things.
Yeah. So. I saw this. So there's not much to go off of really. It's just supposedly Elder Scrolls remake with Virtuous Games as a lead, and I think that part alone tells me it's bullshit. Like
actually, can I piggyback on that? You want to know what really set my bullshit meter off with that one too?
What
was the Unreal Engine 5? I was like, yeah. Oblivion and Unreal Engine 5? The faces are going to look really messed up now.
But, like, okay, so here's a couple things. This is why I think this is total bullshit. One, why the hell would anybody use Virtuous? Like, at all? Like, okay, so Bethesda published it. Why would they use Virtuous, a third-party developer who has no experience being a lead developer of any games? That they're known for being a support studio, and who are working on Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Why would they be working on this at the same time when Microsoft literally has studios laying around doing nothing? It was like, that doesn't sound right. Why would they pay someone, out of their own network, so to speak, when they have people who would do it in-house? That just seems dumb. Also, Unreal Engine 5, they're not going to use their own proprietary engine? No. Doesn't sound real.
Yeah, no.
So,
what was the source on this again? Like, I saw people running with this, but I didn't see the original source.
Apparently it's coming from a former Virtuous Games employee. So it's just a guy. But it's a deleted post from Reddit. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I no, there's too many things. I'm like, no, doesn't sound legit. So I would put 0 favor.
There's no way that I'm sorry, with the amount of control that Todd Howard seems to reside over the games that him and his team at Bethesda create, there ain't no way they outsource Oblivion to like there's no way they outsource Oblivion to a random Chinese support studio based out of Singapore that they don't have a previous relationship with. Like, if they had a relation, like, have they even done support work uh, divert like
For a lot of different stuff. Like they worked on the Spacer's Choice edition of Outer Worlds. So I mean, it's not Bethesda, but it's close. So I don't know. I don't trust it personally. So I'm not putting any more mental effort into it.
yeah. Yeah, well, Virtuous definitely has the size to do it, as they have 3,500 people at that studio, which is wild. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like, yeah, I don't know. I don't see. Yeah, I don't know. And like it's so uninteresting to me because like we are like 1 year away from the Skyblivion team being ready for launch, which is Oblivion ported into the Skyrim engine. So like I don't really want to play your Unreal Engine 5 version of Oblivion. Like I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Yep. All right, what's your number 3, big dog? What you got for me?
Okay, number 3 is we gotta talk about Red Dead Redemption.
That was my number 1. All right, knock that out.
All right, so Red Dead Redemption remaster, remake, all sorts of things have been flying around because there are no better fakers in the entire games industry as Rockstar leakers. You know, Rockstar's remaking Red Dead Redemption. It's going to be from the ground up. It's going to look better than Red Dead Redemption 2. And then it's scaled down to, it's a remaster, but it's going to be 4K, 60, and, it's going to do all these things. And the actual reality is that it's a PlayStation 4 Pro Enhanced title. And it's also coming to Nintendo Switch. It's not even a native PS5 port. It's a PlayStation 4 Pro Enhanced.
Nick, we need to sound the alarm bell here. I think we should be very concerned citizens right now. How come developers are skipping the PS5? Why is this, Nick? I need an answer. Why are developers skipping the PS5? First, it was Psychonauts 2. There's no PS5 version available. My God. Psychonauts 2, I can't believe that at all. And now Red Dead Redemption isn't going to have a PS5 version? We should be very concerned.
Okay, so the thing that puzzles me, okay? Like, the whole thing that absolutely puzzles me about this is, like, I know, historically speaking, Red Dead Redemption has terrible source code. Like, it is very well documented that game is an absolute colossal nightmare. So that's fine. I am A-okay with that. But my big problem is like, it's a PS4 version in 2023? Really? Like,
is the fact that it's capped to 30 FPS only. I'm like, why? Why would you do this? Like, I literally re-downloaded Red Dead Redemption 1 to play it like 20 minutes before the show just to remind myself what it looks like. Oof. Good luck. If they didn't do anything to fix those character models.
And here's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, this is basically the version of Red Dead that is on Xbox Series X, basically, via backwards compatibility, is what this port looks like it's going to be. So, like, it's got that. It includes Undead Nightmares. It doesn't include the multiplayer. And it's $50. And I hate using the word lazy, because I don't think anyone that works at Rockstar is inherently lazy, but I think their leadership is some of the most unambitious AAA producers I've ever seen. Like, you're talking about the studio that pushes the technical limits on every new release they do. But if it's not a new release of Grand Theft Auto, they just don't care. Like, they handed this off to a non-Rockstar studio to be done. Like, they do not care about their legacy in the least.
Like, I mean, clearly to me, they don't give a shit at all about putting new game. Well, I say there's the whole thing with Strauss Zelnick where he said like, oh yeah, remasters are definitely a major part of our plan here, and it's like, yeah, but I mean the idea I think specifically is that we get some extra revenue in while while GTA's numbers are going down and they're gearing up for the next big release. So I'm not really surprised about it, but I mean, I'm a little bit. And like my big thing is like I can't imagine how difficult it would have been to just use the assets from Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I'd be a little like I can't imagine because I mean they already like did like more like what was it 2/3 of the map. They already did 2/3 of the map for Red Dead and Red Dead Redemption. The 2/3 of the map from Red Dead Redemption 1 is in Red Dead Redemption 2. Like it just seems silly to me that they didn't do that to start. I mean, and also most of the characters are already there anyway, so you could use their character models. So I mean, that would have been like the ideal scenario just to bring Red Dead Redemption 1 up to speed with Red Dead Redemption 2. But you know, these are Rockstar choices. But be very clear, this is just another cash grab. It didn't cost them anything really, other than just doing the Switch port, and they just brought the Switch port over to PlayStation essentially. So I don't know. But I think it confirms to me that eventually when they do get it around to doing a Red Dead Redemption 2, either remaster or next gen upgrade, most likely remaster for being honest, they're probably going to charge you for it. That when they get around to doing that, they're going to charge you out the wazoo for it, and it's just going to be 60 FPS. Like that's all it's going to be. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but I question it. So all right. So my last one, I guess, is I want to talk about that Square Enix Xbox partnership for a minute because that was a kind of a big deal over last weekend. So Square Enix was doing a new deal because they have a new CEO. They were meeting with Yoshi P and doing a bunch of stuff there, and they brought Phil Spencer out live in front of one of their events to announce that Final Fantasy XIV is coming to Xbox next spring. And which is kind of a big deal because that's like the one big game from them that's been missing for so long, outside of Final Fantasy IV or was it seven necessarily. So that's the one big thing. And so it's a moment though because they kind of like mentioned that they're increasing their partnership going forward. So I kind of wonder a couple things. So my first big thought is that does this mean that like Square's done doing like exclusive deals necessarily? I know it's really early to tell, but it seems to me that it's really kind of silly on their part where they're like, "Oh yeah, we can never hit our high-end expectations without being a multi-plat title." So I don't know if it's something like that or worst case scenario for some, maybe Xbox is priming the pump for another acquisition already. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there, but I kind of don't feel like they're gonna do an acquisition necessarily. But I definitely think that they've really primed that relationship so Xbox continues to get and will get more of those titles they've been kind of like dicked out of for random little deals.
I think the biggest challenge that Xbox has right now, and I 100% do not think there's any world where they purchase Square Enix. Because Square Enix has, as we talked about in our previous topic, Square Enix has its own unique set of issues that I don't think Xbox or even PlayStation would necessarily be good at fixing. I think Square Enix needs to put out feelers, figure out what they do best, and work around that. And they need to expand outside of Final Fantasy and expand on things like their Octopath Traveler. I think that's an IP that they can continue to expand on. That seems to do pretty well. The remastering and making their old titles more accessible is another way they can do it, as long as they do it, respectful to the IP. And I think, porting everything at the same time, like the Final Fantasy Pixel Collection, to all platforms instead of PC and then Switch and then PlayStation. Like, I think getting more content to the same people at the same time is important for them. But I think Xbox's biggest thing is making sure that Square Enix games don't come to Xbox for the sake of just not coming to Xbox. We're kind of seeing this.
I think what they're learning about those titles specifically is that they don't help them at all. Is that like, oh, you denying games that have already been on the PlayStation platform to come to a new audience doesn't help you? I think those are the titles you're gonna see stop. Like I still think that Sony's gonna try to lock down those big titles, but I think a lot of those little ones where it's like it doesn't help them at all to do it are gonna stop. I think those ones are gonna be done.
Well, I think with Square Enix, I think the biggest thing with them is they are very much a studio that's like, hey, what are you gonna do for us to bring this game to you? And I think Xbox quite often is there with money, but I think PlayStation's quite often there with money and development help and, a more nuanced way of backing Square Enix and giving them help. And I think that's kind of what Square needs, is to help get their, games out as quick as they can and making smart partnerships and things like that. But I think, all in all, I think things will get better between Square and Xbox. Like, I'm not going to sit there and say, like, oh, Final Fantasy 16 is going to come to Xbox or anything wild like that. But I think Square Enix, like a lot of third-party developers, they're starting to realize that expanding is important, and the more people you can reach, obviously, the more things you're going to sell. And I think part of the biggest struggle that Xbox has in terms of the JRPG market is because for so long in the Xbox One generation, they didn't have JRPGs. A lot of publishers are going, well, why would we publish there? Because they don't sell. Well, you haven't established an audience there. But I think with like the Persona games coming to the Xbox, I think Yakuza coming to Xbox, and I think all these games have kind of started to build up a JRPG and Japanese game fan base on Xbox. But in order to keep nurturing that, you need to keep bringing more of those games to that platform. And I think that's the kind of struggle that Xbox is finding, which is going to segue into my next topic, is the Baldur's Gate 3 situation, where you've got console parity being the reason why Xbox doesn't have Baldur's Gate 3 on September 6th, because Larian can't get the split screen to work on the Xbox Series S. So I understand why console parity exists. You don't want to be selling different versions for the same price, et cetera, et cetera. Totally get that. Feature parity is important when you're selling a product. But what I think Xbox really needs to crack down on is making sure that, like, yes, we have Starfield coming out. So, like, Starfield's coming out the same day Baldur's Gate 3 is. So not having Baldur's Gate 3 on your platform to cannibalize sales or players is not a bad thing, because splitting your RPG fan base isn't a great idea. But with that being said, having Baldur's Gate 3 on your platform is still a pretty essential thing. And if you're going to... If you're going to...
Really
what's that, sorry?
was like, is it really essential though? I mean, for the most part, I have to keep in mind like people like you and me specifically. Yeah, we know what Baldur's Gate is, but I think the vast majority of the audience has no clue and nor doesn't care
No,
about
you
Baldur's Gate.
don't understand. Baldur's Gate had more people concurrently playing it than Apex Legends ever has on PC. I need you to understand that. Like this isn't, and this is why I keep hammering home to people with like everyone trying to be shocked that Baldur's Gate's doing as well as it did. It's one of the top 10 best-selling PC games of all time. This game sold like 15 million copies the first 2 years it was released. Back in 2002, back when games didn't sell like that. Like you're talking physical PC discs. Like this game's massive, and the thing is Xbox needs to make sure that it's got the massive games. Yes, no one cares if Yoko, Sudoku, Seppuku, 18 of a long-running series that only 3,000 people play doesn't come to Xbox. Nobody cares about that game not coming to Xbox. But
Yeah.
Baldur's Gate 3 is a game that needs to come to Xbox. And Xbox needs to solve the Series S problem of if your third-party developers are having problems developing for your box, then you better send engineers over there so that your fans aren't waiting for games. Because that goes to make them feel like third-class citizens. And like, don't get me wrong, if Baldur's Gate 3 being late to Xbox makes you jump off the Xbox train after putting up with the Xbox One generation, I don't know what to tell you. That's the lamest thing ever. Because like the Xbox One generation was way worse than what's going on now. But you've got to make sure that your customers don't feel like second-class citizens. And Xbox does a great job of that already with the PC ecosystem of making console players feel like second-class citizens. And to Inferno's point, Baldur's Gate 3's pre-orders are higher than Spider-Man's right now on the PlayStation Store. So we'll keep that console, not console thing in brackets for now. But where are you at with this? Like, where's your grand scheme of, do you really care if you have to wait a couple of months for a game if you're interested in it?
For me, it's a title by title basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, will some waits be a big deal while others won't? I mean, maybe depends on the game. Like in this case, I'm fine with waiting, mainly because for me, like, I'm already gonna be stacked, dude. I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
I got Payday 3. I got that beta coming up, and then we also got the game coming out, and then I got Starfield right after that. And I still got Warhammer by the end of the year. I'm okay. I'm fine. So, I mean, me personally, I'm okay with that. Now, it would be a big deal if it was like, okay, Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out, like, earlier this year, like in the spring, and we had to wait until, like, 6 months later, then I'd be kind of pissed. But other than that, I'm like, I'm fine. I'm good. So, as a case by case basis, it just depends on what it is. So there's little bits and pieces. I'm kind of like, okay, like for me, I think the split screen thing is stupid. I understand why. I just think it's dumb. But that is just my opinion.
You know what? And the thing is here is like inherently, like there's some games I absolutely want to play split screen. Like Halo was a split screen game for me. But like Baldur's Gate 3? No, I'm playing that online with my friends. Like I'm not sitting down on my TV and watching bear sex with my wife. Like it's just not happening. I'm gonna do it with my friends online where I don't have to look at their faces during the cutscenes. Clearly. But yeah, no, it's just I don't know. I want to see more content back and forth. Like fight for my dollar is essentially what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, like I said, I still don't think Baldur's Gate 3 is as big as you think it is on console. I mean, I'm looking at it in terms of like there hasn't been a sequel officially in 20 years. You have a whole generation of people who have been born and can drink since a Baldur's game.
But it's outselling Spider-Man. It's the top pre-order.
Nobody cares about Spider-Man, Nick.
Oh, nobody cares about Spider-Man. The like 20 million copy. Yeah, okay. All right.
No, I'm looking at it also in terms of like Spider-Man's been up for pre-order for how many months already? The people who were going to pre-order it already pre-ordered it.
All right, okay.
And it's not coming out until October.
We'll see on August MPDs.
All right, I don't doubt that it'll have something. I don't doubt it.
It'll be number 1 on August MPDs, and it'll beat Starfield in September.
I mean, duh. Like it's just obvious.
No, that ain't obvious because ain't nobody playing Starfield through PC Game Pass. Everybody's buying that joint. That everyone on Steam will buy that joint. They ain't using Game Pass for it. I guarantee you. All those modders are gonna buy that game. They're not gonna in quotations.
All I'm gonna say is I'm not gonna be surprised when 2015 happens again, where Bethesda gets cucked out of another Game of the Year win because of some random Eastern European studio.
Oh yeah, because they lost to The Witcher 3 in 2015, though. Yeah, but they deserve that because The Witcher 3 is a better RPG than Fallout 4 is.
I'm not doubting that at all. I believe that's totally true. But like, I would not be surprised. And I'm not at all saying I don't think that the game's not good or anything like that. I want to play this game really bad. Well, I also keep in mind it's literally D&D down to the absolute minute. Like I fully admit that. So I'm definitely I'm excited to play it. I really, really want to play. Those of you that don't know, I DM for D&D on a regular basis. So forever DM. So hey, I get a chance to play. So But
also too, for you, it kind of works out better if it doesn't come to Xbox till 2024, because then you'll be through, Payday, Starfield, and Warhammer as well, Cyberpunk expansion, and that's all in 1 month.
God help me.
So like I totally understand people, and like I know I'm in a unique position because I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 on PC for the entire month until Starfield launches. Like this is the best case scenario for me because I actually have a game that I really, really love in the lead up to Starfield, so we'll make the wait for Starfield feel way less.
Yeah. Oh, my biggest problem right now is I'm trying not to play any games that are like Starfield. So, like, I'm playing a bunch of, like, period piece stuff. So, I'm playing, like, Sea of Thieves, Red Dead Redemption. What else is there? I've been playing a bunch of different randoms. Oh, Chivalry 2 again. I'm trying to play everything but this.
Yeah.
So, that's my whole thing. I'm just trying to do something different.
Yeah, I totally, and see, that's the thing for me is what's so great about it is it's like I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3, it's a CRPG, medieval fantasy, blah, 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 and then, I'm going to go right into being a space assassin in Starfield. It's going to be great. I'm excited. And I think that's the thing that annoys me the most is there's so many people that are going, oh, how's Starfield going to beat Baldur's Gate? I'm like, it's not about beating, it's the fact that I'm going to have, between this, Starfield, and the Cyberpunk expansions, I'm going to be playing RPGs I love for the next 4 months, and I could not be more excited about that than anything right now. Like, I'm not even thinking about Modern Warfare 3 this year, because I'm going to be still playing all my damn RPGs from the summer into November,
dude,
December.
We are in a Western RPG renaissance, dude. Like, this is so good. Like, I'm so excited because we're gonna have like this. We're gonna have was it right after Starfield? Then we're also gonna have like you say, a Cyberpunk expansion. Then we're gonna get Avowed, and then we're gonna get Clockwork, Revolution,
Hmm.
and then was it? Then it was. I think by that time, I think they still have Mass Effects planned.
Yep. There's a Mass
Yeah,
Effect,
is
and
it next
no,
year
there's
or is it?
Dragon Age is first. Dragon Age was supposed to come out
Yeah,
this
Dragon Age
year,
is first. Yep,
but that's next year now.
yep, smart.
Yeah,
Dude, we are gonna be eating so good, and I'm just kind of like, it's also really funny to watch that because like a lot of these these Western RPG titles, they take a decade in between coming out, but
yeah,
when they do come out, it's a giant event that
yep,
everyone gets involved with. Everybody loves it, and it's funny watching like some JRPGs, especially. I look at Final Fantasy specifically because it's the same title, like over 20 titles that they've released, and it's just kind of like, and every time they come out, it's like a couple million units, and then we're just kind of move on. And it's like, all right, well, I'll wait 2 or 3 years to get another one. And it's like, okay, all right. It just feels weird comparatively.
yeah. There's definitely an event feeling, and I'm not gonna lie. Like, I kind of thought like Baldur's Gate launch was gonna be an event to a certain extent, but like I did not expect my entire feed to get swallowed into it and get like 20 DMs of people going, "Hey, this is a really great game." I'm like, "Yeah, I've been telling y'all." Well, not specifically about 3. Like, still go play the first 2, but uh, it's great to have big games that are doing really well, and it feels like every game that's come out this year, for the most part, is just knocking it out of the park.
Yep.
Like,
We had a Diablo 4 recently.
game of the year and RPG of the year is going to be a massacre at the Game Awards this year.
Yeah, I'd say there's no chance in hell Spider-Man may even get a nomination. Like I just can't. Like there's too many games that are coming out that would go after this title.
Man, there's so many
I
good
mean,
games
also,
that came
you
out
know
this
what
year.
else is also really weird? Is it doesn't Armored Core 6 come out this month?
Yeah, 25th of August.
Yeah, and I get like no like hype from that at all for anybody. It's just like, okay. And I'm like, wow, it's wild. Just to see how like it just I remember like being super stoked for it when they announced it, and I'm just kind of like, I'm good. I got plenty of other games. I'm good. And it's like, huh, okay, weird.
It definitely does feel like everybody's in a rush to release their AAA game right in the summer. Like, nobody wants Christmas this year. They're all like, "No, we have to release before September."
It's gonna be rough. I don't know. I don't know how the end of this year is gonna shake out. We'll see how this all goes down. But all right. Was that my last one? Yeah, that was my last one. Do you have anything else on your list?
Hold on, I think I got one more.
You should have one more.
Yeah, because it did that, did that. Why do I have 4? Ah, all right. So, let's talk a little bit about Assassin's Creed. So
Okay.
Assassin's Creed Mirage has slowly been, been edging up my hype list a little bit at a time. They keep saying little things like, smaller in scale, tight, compact story, everything else. Now, I wanted to have this conversation where we're going to use it to wrap up the show because I fell off of Assassin's Creed around Assassin's Creed 3, and I know you loved AC Odyssey. Like, you really enjoyed
Valhalla.
Assassin's or no,
It was Valhalla.
Valhalla,
Yeah.
sorry. Not Odyssey. Ah.
Yeah. Odyssey was. I liked Odyssey at least in terms of like premise. It was way too grindy. I had to stop playing. I was like, this is too much.
Yeah. So we kind of got like we've got Valhalla, which is the most successful Assassin's Creed game that's ever launched. And now we have Mirage, which is more of a throwback to the early Assassin's Creed games. Do you have a preference between the two styles? Or do you think that they should just do both? Have like a tight, compact, stealth-focused one and then do their massive RPG as well? And just keep separate storylines for those? Or do you think they'll just do the absolute nutty thing and just weave the stories in together and make you have to play the 100-hour RPG and the 20-hour game too?
Really good question. So, ideally, what I would want them to do is you launch the big RPG and you keep that for like 7 years or something as the RPG experience for that. You can support it, do whatever you want with it. And then I would like 2 smaller games before the next big RPG comes out. And I want to preface I liked Valhalla in that I just kind of forgot it was an Assassin's Creed game and it made it better. Like there's DNA prints, sure, but I enjoyed it. I really, really liked it. It was a lot of fun. I guess part of it was the setting I really enjoyed. I like that whole particular period. I really liked watching Last Kingdom, and it pairs really nicely with this because it's the exact same time period from a different point of view. Really, really good show. But I would like it if they continued this and had that to some extent. But I didn't like when they just made it like, okay, we're having 3 back-to-back RPGs. I was like, oh my god, kill me. Like, I don't have time to do that every time. But I do want these smaller experiences. I'm prefacing this out by saying I don't know what this game is going to be exactly, and I'm hoping it's what we think it is. Assuming Mirage is like an old school, like Brotherhood type Assassin's Creed, I'm in. But like I said, I want to see what that looks like first. But I want to throw that caveat in there. So I like the shorter games if it's like built around set pieces and enjoyment and not just this giant open world for you to always explore. But like I would like a really dense feeling city and you stay in that city alone. It felt like, okay, I know all the ins and outs of this place. I can lose guards because I know all the regular turns. And I know what to do in this area. If they could do that, I'm in.
Yeah. See,
Yeah,
I always had an interest with Assassin's Creed, and one of my interests was I'd always hoped they'd do a modern, like a 2022. Don't don't put it in London. Don't put it anywhere where you had Watch Dogs. And you know what? When I was playing Watch Dogs, that's what kind of made me go, it'd be really cool to play an Assassin's Creed game in modern times. Because you can kind of borrow from all your franchises. And I think like a modern Assassin's Creed set in like Dubai or maybe even like Tokyo, or even if you wanted to avoid maybe doing Asian countries, maybe do like even do something African like Morocco or something.
They did New York already. Hold up. Yeah, they did Boston too. Yeah, I don't know exactly where you'd put it, but yeah, I like that idea of like doing a smaller scale version of something like that. That would be really cool. And yeah, Watch Dogs 1, it felt like Assassin's Creed, but the hacking element got elevated even more.
Yeah.
So,
well, and see, like my thing is like it'd be like you do something like Dubai, so like you're killing Templars in Dubai. And you know the head Templar's at the top of a skyscraper in Dubai, and you start in the slums and you kind of work your way around and gain abilities. And
I think if you did LA, I think LA would work really well too.
Yeah, LA would probably work really
well. Because I mean, any modern day one, you're gonna have to let people drive.
Yeah,
like driving is an element of that. Like it has to be, and so you want a city that's big enough where you can drive. but at the same time, you want it like spread out and diverse enough of a landscape to work with. And so I could see like people being Templars and still doing that too in that setting.
Yeah. Yeah,
But yeah,
it'd be cool. It would be, it'd be really interesting. Um, but yeah, I very much agree. I always felt like with Valhalla and what they started leaning into with Odyssey and Origins, it just felt like they were too scared to make a new IP as an RPG. And just were like, yeah, it's Assassin's Creed. Get it, guys? Because you guys like those.
you know, honestly, this is the coolest part about all the new RPGs. I like them doing the cult aspect.
Hmm.
That was doing the whole the web where you have to like find out who's who and get clues, and like you could do the main story, but you're not going to get all the clues that you need. You're going to have to take down other people, and they'll give you clues and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was really neat. Like that whole aspect of it that they added. I want to say it was Odyssey that added it first. I don't recall it in Origins, but I remember specifically in Odyssey they had it with the Cult of Cosmos, and that was a really cool feature that they added to it. That I want to see that return. Yes, but the rest of it,
Yeah.
I don't need that big adventure. Like it was enjoyable, and I would love to see it happen at some point, but not like a regular occurrence. So.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see. That's another one that comes out in September, I think.
Is it September or October? Let's see.
Creed Mirage. October 12th, sorry.
That was okay. Close enough.
So yeah, we'll have to see what that looks like, and
Yep.
yeah, it'll be an interesting adventure, that's for sure. That about wraps her up. So, Ivan, any closing thoughts?
Nope, not really. Mostly just congratulations, New Zealand, on finally getting on board with the rest of the world and approving the Microsoft Activision merger. Congratulations, you're late. So that's me.
Hey, this has been the first episode since we've been back where the ABK deal wasn't mentioned till the end of the episode. Let's go. Oh man. All right, so yeah, that is that, and this is this, and that is the end of the show. That was the most Dr. Seuss ass outro I've ever had. Okay. But yeah, no, it's been a great time. We will be back regularly going forward. So Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as long as my son doesn't figure out that his diaper is optional. We'll be all good that way. And got a little interview series that's going to kick off next week too, but there'll be details about that on our next episode that won't be dropping before our next episode. So I will announce the guest and time for that next Monday at the start of the show. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. And as always, you can find us on Twitter, Threads, everything else. Either under Nicholas at Nicholas CC Radio, or Ivan at Anchorman V2. All right, so hope you guys have a great night, and we'll see you guys next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye for now.
See you guys.